This is another video where we're working with the appointments program to filter based on a criteria. This time we're going to filter it based on a date. And that brings up some interesting challenges, which I will try to help you through. The problem statement asks you to search for a range of dates, or a date and then a certain number of days before or after it. We're going to keep it real simple to get started. It sounds kind of complicated. They want you to use a date time picker and a dialog box and all that. So let's just keep it as simple as we can and try to mirror some other things that we have here. Like this section where we are changing the data source of our data grid view. We know that's what we're going to need to do. And we were calling this method getByCustomerID before. We're going to change that. We can call it whatever we want. We're going to have to make it at some point. And we are passing an argument to that method of the customer ID. That's not going to be important to us. What is going to be important is the appointment date. So looking back to see how the customer ID was gathered, it came from user input from the combo box. And again, eventually we'll put a date time picker so that the user can choose a date for here. But for now, to keep things as simple as we can, let's make something ourselves. So I'm going to make a variable of the data type date time. And why did I choose date time? Well, if you look around the program a little bit, you will see that that is the data type used within Visual Basic for this field of this database table. Looking through the appointments form, the appointments class, you'll see the insert method takes the date time data type for the scheduled variable. So let's take a look at where this date time is coming from here. See if we can get an idea as to how we can make our own date time. It's coming from the new appointment form. And here it is, the scheduled at is the name of the variable within here. And the way they're creating it is from a DTP, that's a date time picker, the value.date property. So we're going to need to do that in the future, but for now, let's just, like I said, keep things simple and take that variable out of the equation and just maybe do a Google search to see how we can assign something to this variable. Because ordinarily we would just type the variable name, appointment date, and then the assignment operator, the equal sign, and nothing real obvious shows up here, so let's search Google for VB date time. MSDN has all sorts of great resources, but technical details, methods, properties, and down at the bottom some examples. Alright, so here's an example of instantiating a datetime object. Perfect, exactly what we need. So they have the date, and they're passing all these arguments to the constructor for the new date class. And we can't exactly do this syntax, it doesn't like that. So let's just take the whole string here and paste over what we have, replace the variable name there, actually technically that's an object name, and no more squigglies. We could take some time and figure out what all those numbers are for, but you can see the first one's probably the year, and the IntelliSense will tell us some of that stuff. But let's make our method. We've got an existing method, getByCustomerID, which is going to be close to what we need, except we don't want to get by customer ID, we want to get by date. And we're going to give it a good descriptive parameter variable name and set the data type of that parameter variable. We're still going to create a table from our adapter, and we still want to filter it, but we're not going to filter it based on customer ID. So let's look at exactly which field name we have in our table. Within the appointments table, it's scheduled, so we want to do scheduled instead of cust ID. And then we don't want to do it the equal sign because that's kind of tough with dates because they do have the time in them as well. So let's do a less than or greater than or equal to type thing. And we'll just change the other part of it to our variable appointment type. Let's see if this works. As much as possible, you want to do a little something, try to get it to work, and then build. Syntax, we'll see what's going on. Let's see if the syntax is the exact same as our other one that we know works. We do have the ampersand in the variable on this one. We have the ampersand in the variable on that one. So maybe it's something special with doing the date time, because that's what's different. We have a different data type that we're working with. So let's do another Google search for VB row filter with a date. Stack Overflow is a nice, reliable resource. Somebody had a question, somebody has an answer that's been upvoted. That one's using a different type of thing than we have. This one is a little bit closer. They're using string.format. So let's copy this. We'll paste it down here and try to compare what we have to what this is doing. So they have a supplier invoice date. That sounds like a field name. So we're going to replace that with our field name, which is scheduled. And they're doing greater than. We're going to keep our less than or equal to. So I'm just going to replace those things. Maybe those square brackets have something to do with it, maybe not. We'll take them out, see if it works. Then they have a new date time there, and we're going to replace that whole thing with ours appointment date. We could have left something like that in there and just set the date ourselves here. That would have been another way to reduce, the number of things that are different from a known working example. But let's see if this works. It's some crazy string formatting that it wants to do. We got a date in here of 2008. Not sure what our dates were for our appointments, but I think they were all after that. So let me say greater than or equal to that date. Appointments, view, clicking our button, and sure enough, no errors. It's working. We got a bunch of dates here. They're all after 2008. Let's pick another date that would filter these a little bit. So 2011 we wanted to work with, October. Let's find where we made our date back in the form. And we wanted October. Something like the 3rd would give us some difference. Still getting everything. But that is probably because I put 2010 and I should have put 2011. Alright, let's try that. Might work a little bit better if you actually put a proper date. And sure enough, it's working.